Structures and demographics. This is like 10% of the AP test yesterday and today. These are disproportionately represented on the exam. And these are also, all things considered, like really cool ways to think about the world. We're going to start talking about how to use age structures to understand what's happening in the planet. And personally, I kind of think that this is sort of where a lot of the neat stuff in our class comes out. This is where things get really cool. So first, I want to finish off yesterday's lecture. You may notice I've added a color. Did we do stages 1, 2, 3, and 4 yesterday?
No, we got to the break.
So I want to remind you that the easy part is lowering death rates in terms of development when you throw money at a country. Food, water, sanitation, medicine, those are the obvious first steps. Nobody wants to die. Usually the primary issues are relatively simple issues. So in development terms, early development is the easy part. The first little jump in revenue per human is to give food, water, sanitation, and medicine. That's easy. Now, much harder is bringing down birth rates, because that's a cultural change. You have to rearrange your society and your economy. We've got to talk about education, infrastructure, development of the economy, law and order, equality, social services. That stuff is not easy. You can buy this by the barrel. This takes a lot of PhDs. This is not easy. It's also not cheap. If you can pull this off, then birth and death rate are both low. In a country with more money per person, and you say, hey, welcome to the first world. Your kids can go to college. Your women can make their own decisions about their bodies. Your economy is dependable and a safe place to invest. And you know that there will be workers and consumers 20 years down the road. Political stability is usually born of economic stability. So this is kind of a safe place to be and a nice place to have your children, and you can feel like you have more faith in your country. First world. But you'll notice I've added a line. Compared to yesterday, there's one more color on the board, the purple. Purple is population. Throughout a demographic transition, population tends to grow just like money. Third world countries usually become larger first world countries. And I think you'll understand why. You killed me with that. Because you're always yawning, and then it's like sort of the middle of my visible spectrum in the classroom, you know? And so like if he was yawning, or if she was yawning, they're like on the edge, and I don't really see them as much. But then I start yawning, and everybody else starts yawning, so yeah, I start saying yawning, and so then we're all yawning. I hate my life. All right, watch. Watch. The easy part.
It's your eyes.
I know, sorry. The easy part is bringing down the death rates. When you bring down death rates, I think everybody understands, right, that if the same number are born but less are dying, population will begin to grow, right? And notice that the angle depends on the difference. So if there's a lot of difference, like really high birth and really low death, that's really rapid rate of change over time. Population grows the fastest right here, where there's the biggest spread between those. Does that make sense to everybody? Question over here? Yeah.
What easier bringing up the birth rate or the death rate?
Oh, well, killing people is pretty easy.
Yeah.
So remember that population begins to grow as death rates drop, And when death rates are really low and birth rates are really high, that's where population spikes the fastest. In a successful transition, population starts to taper out when people, zip up their pants, so to speak. Or, whatever. But when birth rates come down, population tends to taper out. And when they're roughly equal, population becomes flat. Everybody understands that, right? That in a successful transition, you have a period of growth, which is steepest when there's the most difference between them. Right? Now, you also know that in some countries, if the economy's really cracking, then population starts to come down. You've heard about Japan, you saw that in the thing. Maybe you've heard about the United States. Okay. So where the economies are really going up, population might even start to drop. But I want everyone to notice that the most difficult thing is dropping birth rates. And so the crux, the most challenging step is right here, between the second and the third phases. Because I need you to see what happens when it doesn't work out. When your population is growing, and you get it right, that means more workers, so labor prices are low, and if you get it right, you could be like, hey, McDonald's, I'll make all your cheap plastic crap. Or you could say, hey, Sony, we got a bunch of educated people that can follow directions. Let's build your factory. We'll make all your televisions for you. If you get it right, you have an abundant workforce, which means labor prices are low, which means you're going to get a lot of investment because countries want to build factories in your low labor areas. That's the secret of the Asian tigers. Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, South Korea. They said, look, we brought down our death rates, so we've got this exploding population. We can put them to work for you. Build your factories here. And we start to build the factories, and that covers your infrastructure. You've got your economic development, so you start to build law and order, and education, and equality, and social services, and Merry Christmas. You can go from being a starving East Asian country to being a global superpower with more people and much more money per person. That's hot. The Asian tigers. But what if you can't make it work? What if you've got more mouths to feed and you can't get economic growth? Then all of a sudden it's like, well, we had enough food, water, and sanitation for a few people, but now that we've got all these extra people, we don't have enough food, water, and sanitation anymore, and what happens to death rates? It's called the demographic trap, and this is a really challenging concept. Haiti might be a good example, Botswana might be a good example. Bangladesh, depending on what happens in the next decade, might turn out to be one of these. In a few countries, the rising population actually reverses development. Because look up here, this is the trap. Watch. If your population rises too much and you can't pull down that birth rate, now you've got less money per person again. You go back to being a poor country with high birth and death rates, but more starving citizens. I mean, good luck. You got to go for development. It's like you're starting over again, but now there's just more people, so the problem just got bigger. Like in Botswana, AIDS did this. You lost the generation that could have been building the economy. So in Botswana, AIDS did this, So death rates come up, and now you just got a bigger country of people living in bad conditions. In Haiti, like, bad luck hit this. They had, like, what was it, an earthquake, typhoon, fire, and political revolution in the same 3 minutes or something? I mean, Haiti just, like, when the wheels fell off and, like, everything crashed. And so Haiti was looking pretty good for a little while. And then, unfortunately, the population outpaced development. And they're like, great, well, now we got extra food for 4 people, but we got an extra 40,000 people. That's not so good, right? You understand math. Are we good with that? Because there's a few parts of today that I think are really cool, but we got to kind of move along through a few different steps. Quickly, now that we have discussed population, watch. In a phase 1 country, you have a high death rate and a high birth rate. So you've got people that don't live very long, but they have a lot of babies. Or they have a lot of babies, but the babies don't make it very far in life. See that? This is the age structure for the third world. If you see that shape, you pretty much know you're in the third world. How many of you did I tag for group 1? Is that what your country looks like? Cool. Now, in phase 2, you're still having a high birth rate, but your death rate has gone down. So as you make a lot of babies, they last longer. They're not dying anymore. You can see that. They all make it to 20. And you know, your old people, they're still getting older and older and older and older. You have a higher pyramid with a wider base. Did I pick any of you with this shape to do group 2? And this looks right for group 2? I'm checking myself. Kind of. Cool. Now, some of you got picked in group 2 to be a little later. Like what happens in later development. Those countries tend to get some shrinkage and maybe even a little baby echo. Like that maybe? Do we have any of those in group number 2? Cool. And if you're in the developed world and you've been there for a long time, pretty much you've got either a stable population where the only cause for death is literally old age, or maybe some shrinkage depending on your economy and whether or not you can keep people breeding. So what happens here is sort of a question mark. But either way, that's the developed world. Just so you know, that's not group 4 today. Some of those are also in group 2 or 3. I have a diagram that I got off the internet, but honestly, I'm not just being cocky here. I never liked it when I found it. I really think that this is actually better. I was in a hurry when I made this slideshow, and so this was the only one I had, but I don't really think it's very accurate. I think this is more accurate. We've got to do this really quickly, and there's going to be students walking around, and some students are going to be talking. And I don't want you to be distracted, because the last, 10 minutes of class might be really neat if we can get there. Group 1, when you come up, cover your face with your age structure, please. Let's go. Group 1. Yes.
In group 3, but I'm not really seeing it.
You're supposed to be there. They don't align with those spaces. So students, well, excuse me.
Cover your face.
Yeah, everybody's always trying to do that. Welcome to the third world. Welcome to the third world. Oh, thank you, Jeff. Welcome to the third world. I hate my life. It's Jackie's fault.
I keep
every
yawning.
day.
I hate my.
Every day. Plus, like, you don't yawn like this. You yawn like a lions. You ever seen lions yawn? Okay, watch. These are somewhere along the third world, give or take. Afghanistan probably is the most third world of the countries we've looked at. Seems like a really good place to go start a war. Or it might actually be why there is so much consistent instability and political chaos. We can poke fun, but that's a bad place to be. Look at how many people are born and how many of them make it to their 20th birthday. Like that's grim. Zimbabwe and Swaziland both are suffering different degrees of AIDS epidemic. Neither of them is the worst, but they're both kind of bumming out on that. They're basically third world nations. Early development, you'll notice there's like some better survivorship, technically better survivorship of infants than Afghanistan. So both of these are like trickling into phase 2, but they're being depressed by the AIDS epidemic. You guys have anything to add? Group 2, please. And everybody move like 2 yards that way. Thank you.
Push Lane outside.
Now look, one funny thing is you can see the countries that are most developed because they look most robust, I guess we would say. Look at Iceland. Probably the coolest country on the planet, plus Bjork is from there. Bjork?
I know someone named Bjorn from Iceland.
A, she's a fox. B, she sings like the birds. And C, you may not know this, she's a fantastic actor. Unbelievable.
We also don't know who Bjork is at all.
She is a musician. Okay.
You know Bjork?
So you'll notice Iceland, that's like the most rock and roll shape you can get. US pretty close. Oh no, Australia pretty close. The US pretty close. And by the way, red, white, and blue, red, white, and blue, red, white, and blue, just saying.
Lol.
Yeah, actually, you know, the white people flag. I mean, all the Union Jack countries have red, white, and blue, and they all have stable populations. If you look at New Zealand, it also looks like that. It's a lot smaller. And if you look at Canada, it looks very much like that. They don't have the Union Jack anymore. But the trick is making your flag red, white, and blue. That's right. Now, Argentina, the country that I'm from, depending on who you ask, they're either all convinced that they're in the first world, or they're all convinced that they're in the third world. Sad truth is, if you go to the big cities in Argentina, like the capital, it is beautiful, modern, spectacular. Buenos Aires is like the Paris of the South. Everybody loves it. But if you go to rural parts of Argentina, people are like, yo, you might as well be in East Timor. Whoa. Countries that are somewhere between phase 2 and 3. Where, you know, they've stabilized their infant mortality, death rates are low, but, you know, not fully all the way through yet. East Timor, I think, has another interesting thing going on. Unless, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that East Timor has a lot of people that emigrate. They leave because they can find better work in the region. Japan, as you've heard, would be super stable, except they've had some gnarly shrinkage.
It's cold down.
It is cold down there. Do you know Ireland? Ireland is very stable, but they do have some, you know, European Union, now that you can travel more easily. A little bit of shrinkage. And Brazil. Keep your eyes open for that. That's a country on the cusp. Look at that swelling, you would say. Hold that thing up really high. Look at how many people are entering the economically productive age groups. There's like a lot of people in their 20s in that diagram. Hey kids, it's like, I'm sorry that this is boring, but I really got to get somewhere with this. Please don't interrupt. There's a lot of people like in their 20s and 30s. You know, this data is about 10 years old, so today they're in their 40s. You know, that's like building economy. When that's a lot of people in their 50s, that's like as big as the economy's going to get. Brazil is like economically definitely just a decade or two behind Ireland, Iceland, Australia, the United States, and hopefully not too close behind Japan, because they don't seem to have the same decline in population, but they are getting a little bit of shrinkage. Next group. What was that? 2? Let's do 3. Now, look at this fun fact. Bangladesh was pretty much a stereotypical, classic third world country 20 or 25 years ago. Then, population started to shrink for bad reasons. Like literally the babies weren't even making it. This is kind of a special case. Bangladesh, for a long time, was considered to be, by many rankings, the worst country on earth to live in. That hot potato gets skipped around, the lowest HDI. That hot potato goes from Bangladesh to, I think for a while it was in the Sudan, then it went to a country called Chad, then it went back to Bangladesh, and currently I'm not sure which is the lowest ranked country for living, but, you know.
Canada.
Yeah, Canada, I'm sure. But this is pretty sad times. I don't know, you know, Bangladesh. Can I recommend that all of you that have other things to discuss, please do it outside, because I'm trying to videotape, and students who are absent really are going to need this lecture to excel on this exam. And I don't care if you guys don't like my class, and you don't have to listen to it either. You don't have to talk here, though. Please just go outside. There's no penalty. But the noise blocks the video. Like, all students who need this lecture, in all my periods, are being frustrated by those of you who have so many things to say. Just don't say it here. Go outside. I don't mind. There's no penalty. I swear. Just say, like, hey, you can do it. No problem. I won't care. That's not what you're graded. Just go outside and talk. Italy, amazing situation. All these Italians are still somewhere. Not in Italy. You see, the funny thing that's been happening since before the European Union is Italy's been experiencing what's called a brain drain. You know, a country where there's a lot of social services, like Greece, you know, where the government gives you very comfortable retirement, or, you know, on the spectrum of socialism. We don't call those socialist countries, but they're more so, you know, better retirement, better healthcare, stuff like that. When your economy's not growing too fast and the cost of your social services keeps going up, people say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not going to start a family in this country because our economy is going to go increasingly to social services, and that's not a lot of room for growth. And hey, now that we're in the European Union, it just takes one passport. I'm going to go to the UK or Germany, Turkey, where I can find an exploding economy. So all these Italians, they jumped ship. Brain drain. That's a country that's shrinking because of declining native birth rates. All those Italians are still alive somewhere. They're just not in Italy. Thank you. Next group, is that 4? China, Russia, and Iran have done something very unique in different ways. China is the most famous example of population control. And everybody talks about China's one-child policy, which for a while there was, unfortunately, in some parts of China, very draconian. It was harsh and cruel. By the way, not true in all parts of China, and not true for all time in China. There have been moments of really heinous population control measures, but, you know, you got to give it to them, it worked. The largest population had the most babies, as you would expect, but overall, that's a country that is bringing down their population, which is kind of amazing because they have an exploding economy. I mean that there's more money to go around for less and less people, that equals rapidly increasing wealth. That's why China will pretty soon own all of us. And the sharks, and the turtles, and the bulls, and all that stuff. Now, Iran, you'll notice they had some very steeply controlled populations. And they used an entirely different approach to China's, a really unique one. They incorporated their religious leadership. I mean, can you imagine if the Pope comes out on the big balcony on top of his fancy castle and he says, everybody, use condoms, it's the Christian thing to do.
Catholic.
Catholic. We know he's not going to say that. But can you imagine if Catholics were encouraged to control population by their religious leadership? That's what happened in Iran. Iran had like a big conversation with a lot of their religious leadership. And you guys know that Iran has a religious council for all political decisions, right? They have like a semi-religiously fundamental political system. Yeah, it's a semi-theocratic system. Not entirely, but it's a hybridized democratic theocratic system. Iran, they got some of their religious leaders together and they said, look, is there a way that we can justify population control? And there is. Muslims have a culturally ingrained, very, very deep commitment to taking care of their fellow Muslims. This is true of all the Abrahamic religions. So Christians of all stripes and Jews of all stripes believe in the common good. In the Jewish faith, or the like the golden rule thing, among Christians, but for Muslims, that's like a really serious thing. What the leadership of Iran said, you guys know what a fatwa is? It's a religious commandment, sort of. It's like, hey, we've interpreted the Quran, and it says, and so everybody goes, okay, that sounds right, we're going to go for that. They made like a really unified, nationwide campaign to issue a fatwa of population control. And they said, look, when you have a child, that child is using up our limited food supply and our limited national wealth. So you are taking away from a less fortunate Muslim brother or sister. They said, just think carefully before you have more children, because there's going to be less to go around for your fellow Muslim brothers and sisters.
So smart.
And like, yeah, in a religiously fundamentalist country, where in some regions there is not a lot of choice and empowerment for women, you know, you would consider one of the most challenging places to control population a largely patriarchal, religiously fundamentalist nation. Like, it can't get much harder than that. They did it. For like 30 years in a row, they've done it. Kind of amazing. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Russia. Really special case, Russia. You'll notice, for one thing, Russia's missing old dudes. Anybody know where all their old dudes went? A variety of wars, actually. Don't forget that Russia has been one of the most warringest countries ever.
Yeah, Russia.
Then, Russia has some economic shrinkage, some population shrinkage from a growing economy, like Japan and Italy and the United States. And they have a lot of Russians that have left. When the USSR collapsed, a lot of Russians went somewhere else. This country has all the reasons for shrinkage. But you know what's amazing? They still have a rapidly growing economy. And so in many ways, if they can figure out how to distribute that wealth strategically, Russia might turn out to be the sleeping tiger. They might wake up last, so to speak. They might come into their own with a giant economy and a small number of very well-educated, very economically empowered people. They're sitting on one of the largest pools of energy on the planet. They've got more carbon than Saudi Arabia by a lot, more than the US by a lot. And it's natural gas, the energy resource of the future, not the past, not petroleum or coal. Russia might sneak up on us 20 or 30 years from now. Ton of money, very few people, very well educated, a lot of investing potential, a lot of energy left to go. Group number 5, please. Girls, where I couldn't give you the country, can you please remind me of the name of your country on your way out today? Thank you. Because I don't know which group to put those in, and there's a reason that I've lost my notes and I can't figure out. There was a place for you, I just couldn't remember it today. All right, so students, I think Armenia might be the best example to explain this. Look at all these missing folks right there. That's pretty remarkable. Now, you might notice a pattern if I tell you Armenia, Austria, and Poland.
Oh,
This is genocide. Now, for a long time, the international community has not wanted to call the Armenian situation genocide. You ask an Armenian, they're like, duh. But the international community doesn't want to say it because Turkey is like one of the most Western governments on the edge of a really politically explosive region, and we all got to keep our foot in the door because if we aren't friends with Turkey, then we would lose influence in an area that we're really worried about. So nobody wants to accuse Turkey of the genocide, even though by every definition there is no doubt
Who was targeted?
the Armenians.
Just Armenians.
The whole country, I
Oh,
guess.
right. We look at
And I don't know why. Anybody know what it was? The Armenian genocide was caused by what? I mean, what the-
World War II thing.
There's a word for it where they were taking out that complete race.
genocide, yeah.
Yeah, but,
Yeah, so I don't know, eugenics?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand what that... Yeah, I mean, I don't want to simplify this. I'm sure that there's a lot of details, and I hate it when we can go, oh yeah, good guy, bad guy. Okay, let's move on. Like, I don't want to belittle this. It's a touchy subject. We should give it due attention, but...
I think it was
They're
also.
also Eastern Orthodox.
Oh, now I get it. Yeah. Just kidding. I don't hate it. Okay. Austria and Poland, we call these widow states. Because you'll notice, a lot of old broads. If you're into old ladies, yeah, Graham. If you're into old ladies, you can go to Austria, or you can go to Poland. You know they're obviously missing a lot of their dudes because you understand World War II and stuff. And that's kind of, many people say that Austria and Poland are quote-unquote drowning in their tears. That after the impact of those wars, a lot of this population shrinkage is because a lot of people don't want to be there anymore, or their families left, so now they're catching up with their families. There's a lot of people leaving, like Italy and Spain. And I've never known about Azerbaijan, unless somebody can tell me. I think that this is another one of the genocides. I just can't be sure. Can anybody clear this up for me?
And where is that?
Azerbaijan?
Same thing, I think the Soviet Union.
That's kind of been my understanding, but I don't want to oversimplify this. I just thought that's what it looked like. Okay.
Also, I think a lot of people are choosing to Azerbaijan.
Okay. Group number 6, please. I've got 11 minutes. I'm really going to try to rush this. Now, what's interesting here is you might notice that the largest groups, gender balanced, but right around their 40s. Some of these have a lot of old people. Like, how come old people are doing so well here? Anybody know what's going on in these countries? How do they have just a single, like, 10 to 20 year swell, and that's it? Some of you might think of baby boom, yeah. If I tell you that they weren't born there, does that...
Immigration.
Yeah, but why would people go live there? Kind of.
Vacation.
Sort of. Yeah. These students, when you get rich and you don't want the big old bad government to take all your money and give it to all those other people in your country that you don't like, you can go to these tax shelters. A lot of these people don't actually live there. They just, like, paper live there. Because these are all little islands. Anguilla, Aruba, Jersey, Andorra, Antigua. So I think 4 of those are in the Bahamas, right? Caribbean? And 1 of them is in the English Channel. It is the United Kingdom's Caribbean Bahama. All of these are little islands. And they look around and they're like, well, we could build our economy on selling sand and coconuts. Or they can just offer a place where you can, oh, you're rich, come be a citizen, no problem. You just sign here, open a bank account. Don't worry, we got really low taxes, just saying. Come on over, be in Antigua. Very, very easy to park your money here. Imagine, for these countries, if they take a thin little slice of your money, it's still more economy than if they tried to compete with the big guys. So a very interesting strategy. is to offer a place to park your wealth so that you don't have to, waste it on taxes. Yeah.
Is that legal?
Oh, yeah. All right, thank you. Group number 7. Hold those really high. And students in the audience, hold it really high and very carefully so everybody can see. Both hands. So you're blocking right there. Yeah, beautiful, like that. Like that, bingo. Now, students, does everybody notice something very strange? Yes. Ratios are off. We call this, for lack of a more politically sensitive term, a sausage fest. Wiener Schnitzel. I mean, come on, look at this. They've got 69,000 dudes and like 18,000 ladies in that age group. Can anybody explain to me why you would end up with this strange sexual imbalance? Yes? You might think selective abortion, but that would be a divot on the female side, not necessarily going to make extra boys. I mean, gender reassignment, I guess, but 5-to-1? I mean, there's more dudes than people 20 and down. Bahrain, Qatar, and Oman.
And they're the same flag?
But interesting idea. Look at this funny coincidence. Look at her flag compared to her flag. Whoa! These are very, very, very small countries in the Arabian Peninsula where the only economy is the oil economy. Women are not needed for that because in many of those businesses, the women don't have a lot of career potential. So this is a migrant workforce that comes during their most productive years. Most of them leave their families back home in another country. These are very small countries, so having that many dudes, they're all working in the same 20 companies in the same 100 office buildings. Or in the oil fields. So if the number is low, that's a lot of oil field workers, like this one. If that swelling is a little bit higher, then we're talking more executive class, so they're working at the corporate headquarters. Neat, right? Is this interesting? Are you guys sort of seeing some interesting patterns here? Yeah?
What is a migrant workforce? How else could a population like that come about?
I can't imagine. This is the one that I always make sure I give to the student that's never absent. Because if we don't have this one or this one during the class, it's like there's no other place on earth that looks like that. I mean, the total population of Qatar is a few million, maybe? Not even? 1 or 2 million? And half of them are dudes that work in petroleum. Okay, go. Yeah.
So women are born there, but they leave?
No, men are imported for the industry.
Oh.
They come from all around to work in that booming economy. Now, kids, I only have 4 minutes, and the next couple of slides, I think, are about your country, your state, your future. You may want to write this down, but it's going to fly by. First of all, look at California when you were divided by the races. The white population in California is getting older and shrinking, while the brown population is getting younger and growing. Bottom population is Asian. Sorry, is black. Second to the bottom is Asian. Now, remember that, please don't interpret this as racial warfare. We are all one people. We can all love each other. But it does show you demographic trends that you probably are well aware of. You are the bottom, the millennials, the children of the baby boomers. So this will be your country in another couple of years. Baby boom 60, 80, 2000, 2020. Look at how our country is changing, comparing the 80s to 2020. 2020 in black. We're going to be a country with a larger percentage of people as old people. Our greatest generation, the baby boom, is going to be a lot older. Look at the shifting political future of our country. If one political party continues to insult and alienate Latinos. Latinos are a growing, increasingly powerful percentage of our country, and whites are aging and declining in numbers. Politically, you can't keep being the party of brown bashing, because this is not going to last very long. Check out South Africa today in 2020, Botswana in 2000 and 2020. Botswana in 2000 red, yellow is 2020. That's AIDS. Now this is an amazing one. In light blue, you've got the shape as a percentage, okay? So these aren't their total populations, but look at the general age structure of white people in Australia, and look at the survivorship of Aborigines in Australia. Tell me that's not a racist country, where Aborigines can't make it past 20. Look at Europe and Africa. And now, give me another 2 minutes and this might blow your mind. Look at the year 2000 compared to the year 2050. All of the developed nations are on the left. They're going to shrink and get older. And all of the developing economies are on the right. Where do you want to park your money? In the place where there's going to be less taxpayers and more retirees, or in the place where the working ages are exploding? And watch. This is the future of your species. In the gray speckles is 1995. The wide white boxes are the year 2050 for worldwide population.